Okay, and welcome to today's episode. It's a little bit different because, hey, I'm not in it. You can't see me. You can only hear my voice. But I want to talk about movie posters. And of course, this being my Halloween special, I'm going to be talking about horror movie posters. So let's just get right into it, and we're going to bring up the first poster, and that's for Hellraiser. One of the biggest monsters, and in some ways one of the biggest franchises to come out of the 80s. Pinhead was, and still is, one of the creepiest monsters to come to screen. For those who don't know the movies, it's about these monsters or demons that were once people who were trying to open this magical box, and when they failed they were killed in very painful and horrible ways and then trapped in the box. Anyone who opens the box the wrong way, as most do, these demons would be released and kill you, again, in a most painful way. Clive Barker made this series to be, far darker than some of the other horror movies coming out during this time. You didn't get the cheesy jokes like on Nightmare on Elm Street. It was far more bloody in many ways than some of the other slasher movies. It had a very gothic feeling about it. And this poster is just awesome. You have the main antagonist, Pinhead, just looking damn scary holding the box that imprisons him. The metal chains and hooks hanging on the back adds to the effect. In some ways, the original movies were kind of gothic and kind of S&M-ish. The leather, the whips, and so forth. So it really tells the prospective user or viewer what kind of movie they're going to be watching. The blue tint goes very well with this poster because a lot of the movie is shot with a slight blue tint to it. Again, it gives it a kind of gothic dark feel. So they actually incorporated this in the poster, which is very, very well done. It gives this cold, dark feeling to the picture that Clive Barker, the director, really wanted the audience to feel while watching it. It's this loneliness, cold, isolated feeling you get with it. I'd say watch the first 3 movies, but ignore the rest. The production company will release a new one every 2 or 3 years for a low budget just to retain the rights to the name Hellraiser. But I want to know, when are they going to put up their money where their mouth is and just make a good one again? But yeah, check out the original. It's creepy, it's scary, it's gory, and parts will make you want to turn away. This is just one scene on the first one, and this isn't really gory, but his hand gets caught on a nail that's coming out from the wood. But the effects, the practical effects they did was so good, like you feel that pain because we've all cut ourselves before, but you see this nail and it just goes into the skin, and every time I need to look away. Okay, so let's go on to the next poster, Poltergeist. They're here. Now listen to me closely here. This is not my favorite 80s horror movie poster, but I do think it's the best one that was made. There is a big difference, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I'm sure most of you know this movie. It's one of the quintessential haunted house movies. A family buys a new home, turns out that it's haunted. Now, I'm going to mend a common misconception here. It is not built on an Indian burial ground like many people think. So why do people think this? Well, what I think is this. In the 80s, there were many other movies that would be made about hauntings or possession that they talked about it because of the desecration of the religious Native American burial ground, most notably, Pet Sematary. But this trope got so big, it actually started to cross over to other horror movies that never said anything about the Indian burial ground. And this also spilled over to the 90s as well. Oddly, however, there's also an Indian burial ground that was unearthed in 1969 during the construction of a supermarket in Aurora Hills, the Los Angeles suburb where Poltergeist would be filmed later in 1981. So
In the movie, it wasn't on a Native American burial ground, but where they shot the movie, it was. Kind of weird. And there was a whole lot of weird things that happened during the shooting of that movie and after as well. And don't forget, this was directed by Spielberg. I always forget that. Anyway, the family, led by Craig T. Nelson, for those who know who he is, and I do like Craig T. Nelson, he ends up buying more than they bargained for as they get haunted. That leads to the daughter being taken away by the house, and the mother has to go into the other realm to go get her. Look, this movie is great. It brought up so many things. One being the first big name movies to have really creepy kids in the horror movies. Not like the kids were creepy, but at least say creepy things, like the classic line which I just said. No, the girl turns around and says, "They're here." It is super creepy, and this is one of the first movies to use like little kids to develop and give creepy lines. So why do I think this poster is so good? Remember earlier I said it's not my favorite 80s horror movie poster, but I do think it was the best one made. Well, this is why. Look, I do love the poster. It's so good. But there are more entertaining ones out there. But I find this poster represents the movie and sums it up so well with such a simple image. Now let's be clear here. There are two versions of it. Well, there's actually quite a few versions. But the ones that were most popular were the ones that people got in the US, which was the colored one, and the camera angle's a bit further out, which is still good. And it's almost the same as the other, the English or the European one. But the small differences are very big for me. It's almost night and day. I want to talk about this one, the European black and white one, though. While the color one is good, the black and white one really stands out. It's not just because it's moody because of the monocolor, and as a photographer, I understand why I would like black and white more, but it goes well with the overall feel of the movie. While the movie is in color, the black and white portrays what the movie's really about better. The shadows and the depth really speaks to the movie's darkness and how the shadows cast over the girl and the teddy bear, like it's a cloak hiding or taking them, much like the TV did in the movie. The fact that there's such a simple image, the girl, the TV, the teddy bear, makes it even creepier somehow. It creates this almost kind of claustrophobic feel, which, at parts, the movie does too. It is the simplicity that makes it so scary, the sparse design that goes along with the movie. It almost tells you everything in the poster. And of course, there's the classic line up at the top, "They're here." If you've not seen it, watch it. Or perhaps you feel the movie's a bit too old, and they did a decent remake of it in 2015, and looks, well, newer than the other one. And from what I've just been reading, it looks like they're going to make a remake, maybe next year. But definitely check it out. It's a classic. If you like haunted house movies and you haven't seen this one, definitely watch the original one, because, you know, this did create a lot of tropes that you see in later haunted house movies. Alright, on to the next one. The Fright Night poster. Okay. On to one of my favorite movies in that decade, actually. And possibly one of my favorite vampire movies of all time. But the poster, it's just fun. I mean, just look at it. Now, a little personal history here with this. So back in the day, we used to have to go to a video shop. You see, a video shop was this place you'd go to get a video to rent for a few days. This was before we had all these streaming services. I might do a little story about back in the day video shops on another episode one other time. But the joy of the video shop and the demise of the weekend. I feel like streaming services has taken away a certain enjoyment of going to a physical shop to get a video. And in many ways, I feel like it's in some ways destroys the weekend, because we got that one video and that was your weekend. But I'm not here to talk about that. So in the video shop, I would always see the box for this movie, Fright Night, but I never got it for so long. And one reason was the picture was faded, the box was cracked, so I never had a good look at the picture. It was not like now where I could just type in a search engine and find a picture. And also I lived in a very small village and we only had one video shop, so I couldn't go very far to see if a shop had another one. Well, when I watched the movie, I was surprised that it was actually about vampires, because I would never have guessed from the picture. I always thought it was some type of ghost movie. I mean, come on, look at the monster, the whispery and whitish like a ghost, right? And mix that with the bad picture on the VHS or Beta. Yeah, that's right. I also had Betamax player. Go on. Pause the show right now. Look it up. Look up what Betamax is. And hell, for some of you, also look up what VHS is. This is what we used to watch. Are you done? Okay, back on with the show. So, now that we have a clear copy of what's in the picture, you can see the fangs and the hellhounds. But still, it's kind of misleading. The movie is awesome though. One of the earlier examples of comedy horror, has a great cast and some scares too. It's just a lot of fun. Just the picture of the giant spirit looking everything with the vampire and the hellhounds, and if you look at the house, there's a single person stood in there with the light on. It just screams horror in so many ways, and it screams 80s. But it's done in such a good way. I mean, hell, even the trees, they make you kind of focus on the house, kind of like hands waving. I think perhaps they were trying to fool people into thinking this is a ghost or haunted house movie, then surprise you with it being about vampires, kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. The plot is simple. A man moves next door to a teen. The man is a vampire. The teen and his friend go to a retired horror TV show host to try and stop the vampire. Simple story, yes, but there's a lot of fun and laughs going on. Great movie, good vampire movie, really funny stuff. They did do a remake of it. It's okay, but for me the original was still a lot better, and I think the remake was fine, but they just tried making it too much like the first one, and they didn't pull it off as well. So it's not about new or old, or looking back to my childhood. It's I can empirically state what makes the first one better. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with that. We're going to carry on now to Nightmare on Elm Street. And okay, I think this is going to be the last one for today. I think I'm going to do another episode like this because it reminds me of some of the movies I've not seen for a long time. And it's fun to look at the posters in more detail. And something that I feel has gone away to the wayside a lot more, like people aren't making as much of an effort to making movie posters. Well, back in the day I felt there was a lot of effort. And I might do another one of these just because it's easier for me to do and I'm a lazy son of a bitch. Alright, so Nightmare on Elm Street. A classic in every sense of the word. Well, I think it would be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't know anything about these movies. So while I find some of the other posters more appealing and fun to look at, I think this is one of the best ones, and the one that grabbed me the most. At least the original movie. Again, I'm sure most of you have seen or at least heard of Freddy Krueger, the dream killer with knives for hands, cheesy jokes, and an awesome hat. Bottom line is Freddy was killed by teen parents. He came back and killed the kids in their dreams. The kids have a way to stop him. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. But for me, the idea of this story is super scary. Think about it. You're not even safe in your own dreams. Not like there was enough stuff in real life to scare you anyway, but now you can't fall to sleep. So this poster has it all. Freddy's burnt face, his knife hands, Nancy the hero in the bed. But it's all about her eyes. She looks so scared in this poster. Like she's unable to move from her bed because she's, stuck in the dream or the nightmare. Also, the wooden posts in the back of her bed like a prison. Because in your dreams, there's nowhere to run. Freddy is lord of that dominion, kind of like the prison guard. So, I feel like this poster really, really exemplifies the feel of the movie. I don't think it really shows much of what the movie is. Like, if you just to look at this poster, I don't think you'd guess what the idea of this movie would be. But if you used to look at this poster, you'd get an idea of the potential of this movie and what kind of scare it would be, and that it should be a scary movie. They did a really good job on this poster. So I think that's going to be it for now. I'm going to do another poster later. I love looking at these. I won't do too many of them because I know you probably get bored, but I do want to do a few because A, I'm really busy and don't have time, and B, again, I like looking at these movie posters. I think some of them are just fun, weird, and just good to look at. Alright, bye for now.